We are back on Inside Politics. Our guest today is Gini Pupo-Walker. She's a former member. She's soon to be a former member of the Metro School Board. But right now, Gini, you are the the director of the Education Trust in Tennessee. What is the Education Trust, and what are you doing with it?
So the Education Trust is a national organization based in D.C. They're about 25 years old, and we have a federal, so we do education advocacy. We're a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. So we do a lot of advocacy around state-level policy. We opened an office in Nashville and in Tennessee 2.5 years ago. And you know, we really focus on data, research, analysis, advocacy, equip partners, advocates, parents, teachers to understand and advocate on education issues.
Well, how do you cut through all the weaponization that's been going on in education? I mean, I suspect data is no longer considered to be neutral, no matter where it comes from.
I think it depends on how you present it and how you contextualize it. I think folks, if you give them the right context, can make decisions, can make all kinds of take action on issues. There's lots of different kinds of data, not just test scores. I think people think test scores are all there is, but there's a ton of other ways to talk about how students are doing.
In terms of looking at schools, we talked about metro schools being, quote unquote, fully funded the last couple of years, more pay for that. There have been some things taken, I think, to try to increase or restore morale for teachers and for the staff people out there. But is it enough? What else is it going to take to make teachers take pride in the schools, and for that matter, to rebuild community pride in our schools? Because I feel like that has suffered over the last couple of years.
You know, it definitely is a national issue. We don't have as many folks going into the teacher profession and teacher preparation programs. Nashville, because we've raised salaries so much, we have hired a lot of folks and kept a lot of folks. And so it's not as dire for us as it is for other places. But I will say that in order for teachers to stay with us, we have to, I think pay is important, but it's just as important to have strong principals and leaders. I think we also have to provide the staff, the bus drivers, the support personnel, so that teachers can do their job and not be covering classes for other teachers, not be doing the things that distract from instruction.
Then there's all the different choices being made right now. We talked a little bit about vouchers, we talked a little bit about charter schools. But when you say, wait a minute, those things are maybe not so good, aren't you pushing upstream? Americans love choice. They love to be able to go to the grocery store and get 14 different kinds of cornflakes and be able to buy 14 different kinds of shampoo. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between giving that kind of choice to people, and why is that necessarily a bad thing?
I think it depends on the choice. I think that it's a very complicated landscape now. You know, you have choice within metro schools. You have magnet schools. You have folks that will select different schools within the district. And then you have charter schools. We have a lot of families that select charter schools. I'm the first to say that it's not up to me to decide where people should send their children, that if you feel like a charter school is a better fit for your child, then you should explore that. But it is a reality that charters drain money from our system in a large way. So the question is it a better use of dollars? I think that's the debate.
Are charters a particular problem in the urban areas? I know that charter schools, I suppose, could be in any county in the state, but it seems to me they particularly are focused in the urban areas, maybe the suburban areas too, but not in the rural areas.
I think that's about to change. You know, Nashville and Memphis were the target for charter operators, and but now you see charters applying in Clarksville and Jackson and Williamson County and Rutherford, and it's interesting to watch these school boards now pushing back.
Then you have the Hillsdale College coming in, and I think the governor had wanted as many as 100 at one time of the Hillsdale groups coming there. They've been controversial. And then there's the comments that you referenced earlier by Dr. Arndt, who's the president of that group. He doesn't seem to have nice things to say about teachers or teacher education. Are you disappointed the governor has pointedly not backed up on or begun to criticize him for what he said, even though he was on stage with him the day he made those comments?
I think it should be a no-brainer that Governor Lee should have rejected that statement. I think it was a direct, really an insult to teacher preparation programs, to teachers who go through those programs, and the assumption, the insinuation that anybody can teach is just not true. I mean, it's just, spend a day like I did at Overton High School with 150 kids coming through your classroom. Spend a day doing that, and then talk to me about how anybody can do that.
Some school boards across the state have rejected Hillsdale applications for charter schools, but the way the appeal system works on the state level, it looks like the deck is stacked. Any of those that appeal, and I think all 3 of them have been rejected, are going to appeal. The state's going to approve them, and so the local school board hands will be tied. There will be a Hillsdale charter school despite these comments and all this other controversy.
It's very possible that the state board will approve those. I think it'll be interesting to see what the debate will look like. I think the first state board meeting where they debate those Hillsdale schools, if they have to just judge them on the merits of the application and not on the sort of politics in the background, I think that's going to be the task at hand. It's going to be difficult.
Schools are beginning to start in Metro, I think, next week. Security, a big issue after what happened, particularly in Texas, but there have been other school massacres, unfortunately, in the last couple of years. Here in Metro, it appears that for right now, there are going to be more of a police presence in the campuses and the schools. Does that give you comfort as a school board member, or is there something that's still missing for what we need to do to make sure our students and their parents feel safe in schools?
Well, the announcement we made this week was to put retired unarmed, not uniformed police officers in elementary schools. I don't know that we're increasing the number of actual armed police in schools, but I'm not a proponent of guns in schools, of teachers having guns. I don't think guns make us safer. That's my opinion. I believe that we have to balance safety with having a welcoming environment. I also think that it comes down to the culture in a school. I mean, there are people that come into schools, but it's rare. It's really about the safety within our own school communities.
Gini Pupo-Walker is our guest. She's an outgoing member of the Metro School Board. We're talking about education issues across the state, particularly after the partisan school board elections were held on August 4th. Back to continue our conversation on the other side of these messages.